Mecca, year 625. A dark prison cell. A man sits alone, wrapped in heavy chains. Tomorrow, they're going to kill him. A woman walks in to bring his daily bread and water. She opens the door and freezes, because in his chained hands, he's calmly eating fresh grapes. But here's what made her freeze. It's not grape season. There are no grapes in Mecca, no vineyards for hundreds of miles around. Where did these grapes come from? This is the true story of Khubayb ibn Adiy, and the grapes are just the beginning. To understand how he ended up there, go back 1 year, to the Battle of Badr. 313 Muslims against 1,000 Meccan warriors. Everyone expected a massacre. But somehow, the Muslims won. Khubayb was one of those warriors. During the chaos, his sword met Al-Harith ibn Amir, one of Mecca's most powerful chiefs. Al-Harith fell and didn't get back up. When the news reached Mecca, his sons were devastated, enraged. They swore an oath. "We will find the man who killed our father. We will capture him, and we will make him suffer before the entire city." But Khubayb had no idea about any of this. He just went back to Medina, back to his quiet life of teaching and prayer, completely unaware that across the desert, in dark rooms in Mecca, plans were being made. Gold was changing hands. A trap was being set. Months passed. Then representatives from 2 tribes showed up in Medina with a request. "We want to learn about Islam. Send us teachers." It seemed genuine. The Prophet Muhammad chose 10 companions for the mission. Khubayb was one of them. They packed up and headed across the desert, excited to teach. They had no idea they were walking into an ambush. When they reached a place called Raji, warriors exploded from behind rocks and sand dunes. Not 10, not 20, 100 armed men surrounded them. They'd been betrayed. The Banu Lion tribe had been paid by Al-Harith's family to capture them. The 10 companions had 2 choices: surrender or fight. They chose to fight. What followed was brutal. 10 against 100. One by one, 7 fell as martyrs. Their leader Asim fought until his last breath. That left 3: Khubayb, his friend Zayd, and 1 other companion. Exhausted, bleeding, completely surrounded. The enemy called out, "Surrender! We promise we won't kill you. We'll ransom you back to Medina." The 3rd companion shouted back, "You already lied once. Never." They killed him right there. But Khubayb and Zayd, exhausted and outnumbered, made a choice. They believed the promise. They laid down their weapons. They let their captors tie their hands. It was a decision born of hope.
They lied, of course. Instead of ransom, they dragged them hundreds of miles back to Mecca. And when they got there, they sold them as slaves to the families whose fathers had been killed. Khubayb was bought by Al-Harith's sons, the very men who'd sworn vengeance. They locked him in a house, chained him up, posted guards, and they started planning his execution. Days turned into weeks. Khubayb sat in those chains, waiting. One of Al-Harith's daughters was assigned to watch him. Every day she'd bring food and water, and every day she noticed something strange. This man, this enemy, he didn't curse at them, didn't rage, didn't plot revenge. He just prayed, worshipped, had this calm about him that made no sense for someone about to die. She'd later say, "I'd never seen a prisoner like him in my entire life." But it wasn't just his character that left her speechless. One afternoon, she opened the door like always. There he was, sitting in his chains, but in his hands, a bunch of fresh, dark purple grapes, just eating them, completely calm. She looked around the room, no grapes. She checked the house, no grapes anywhere. It wasn't the season. The nearest place with grapes was hundreds of miles away. Years later, she'd give her testimony. It's recorded in Sahih Bukhari, one of the most authentic Islamic sources. She said, "I saw it with my own eyes. He was eating grapes while bound in iron chains. There was no fruit in Mecca at that time. The only explanation is that it came directly from God." A miracle, witnessed by someone who wanted him dead, someone who had no reason to make this up. But the grapes were just the beginning. A few days before the execution, Khubayb asked for a razor. He wanted to groom himself, to maintain some dignity, even in his final days. The woman brought it to him, then turned away to get water. When she turned back around, her heart nearly stopped. Her little boy, maybe 2 or 3 years old, had wandered into the room, and he'd climbed right up onto Khubayb's lap. The razor was still in his hand. Think about this moment. This man is going to be executed in days. This child? That's the grandson of the man Khubayb killed. He has a weapon. He has a hostage. He could threaten to hurt the child unless they let him go. And honestly, he's about to die. He's been betrayed, imprisoned, treated like an animal. If there was ever a moment to do whatever it takes to survive, this was it. But instead, Khubayb looked at the terrified mother and said calmly, "Are you afraid I'd hurt him? I would never do that." He gently moved the child away from the blade. He reassured her. The woman stood there completely stunned. She later said, "In that single moment, I understood more about Islam than I could have learned from 1,000 sermons." When everything is on the line and no one would judge you for trying to save yourself, you still choose to do what's right, because your faith has become who you are.
The day came. Al-Harith's sons chose a place outside the city. Word spread fast. Hundreds of people gathered, maybe thousands. They dragged Khubayb out in chains. People threw stones, shouted curses, mocked him. But Khubayb walked with his head up, face calm, like he was walking towards something beautiful instead of something terrible. When they got to the execution site, he made one last request. "Let me pray. Just 2 units of prayer before you kill me." The crowd went quiet. Even his executioners seemed caught off guard by how calm he was. They agreed. Khubayb prayed, but he prayed quickly. This was a man known for praying for hours through the night. Why was he rushing now? Someone asked him about it. He said, "I didn't want you thinking I was trying to delay my death because I was afraid. I'm not afraid." Then they started tying him to a wooden cross. And one of his captors asked mockingly, "Tell me something, Khubayb. Wouldn't you rather that Muhammad was here about to die instead of you, and you were safe at home with your family?" The crowd leaned in. This was where he'd break, where he'd show some weakness. Khubayb looked the man straight in the eye, and he said, "I swear to God, I wouldn't want to be safe at home with my family if it meant even a tiny thorn pierced Muhammad's foot." Silence swept through the crowd. Some people couldn't even look at him anymore. Others took a step back, visibly moved. A few of them would later convert to Islam. They'd say they'd never seen that kind of love, that kind of absolute devotion. Then Khubayb did something that still gives me chills. He raised his chained hands toward the sky and said, "God, I've delivered your prophet's message to these people. Now please, let him know what's happening to me." At that exact moment, and this is documented, 200 miles away in Medina, the Prophet Muhammad was sitting with his companions. And suddenly, he knew. Through divine revelation, he felt everything. He knew exactly what was happening to Khubayb. The prayer of a dying man instantly carried across hundreds of miles of desert. Then they killed him. They mutilated his body, pierced him with spears, made a spectacle of his death. They left him hanging there as a warning. But the story doesn't end there. After they killed him, the Meccans wanted one last insult. They tried to turn his body so his face would be pointing away from Mecca, away from the direction Muslims pray. They pushed. Nothing happened. They pulled. The body wouldn't move. They called more men over. Still nothing. His face stayed locked in the direction of Mecca, like an invisible hand was holding it there. They tried for hours. Eventually, they just gave up, completely unnerved by the whole thing. Back in Medina, the Prophet Muhammad sent one of his companions, a man named Amr, on a secret mission. Go to Mecca. Bring Khubayb's body back so we can give him a proper burial. So Amr traveled at night, moving in the shadows. When he reached the execution site, Khubayb's body was still hanging there. Amr climbed up, cut the ropes, and got the body down. He put it on his back and started running. But someone spotted him. Suddenly guards were shouting and they were chasing him through the rocky terrain. Amr was running as fast as he could, carrying Khubayb's body, guards right behind him. And then something happened that no one can quite explain. Amr heard a sound behind him. He turned to adjust the body on his back. It was gone. Not dropped, not fallen off, just gone. Some accounts say the earth itself opened up and took the body. Others say angels carried it away. What we know for sure, the Meccans searched everywhere. They never found it. Khubayb's body had vanished, protected by God in a way that left an entire city with no answers. 5 impossible things. Grapes appearing in a prison cell, a man choosing mercy when he had every reason not to, a prayer traveling instantly across 200 miles, a body that wouldn't move, a disappearance that no one could explain. All of it documented, all of it witnessed by people who had no reason to lie about it. But here's what gets me about Khubayb's story. When he had literally nothing left, no freedom, no hope, staring death in the face, what remained? His faith, his character, who he was at his core. And that's when everything impossible became possible. Maybe you're in your own impossible situation right now. Remember Khubayb eating those grapes in chains? Miracles don't happen when everything's going great. They happen when you're at your lowest point and you still choose to hold on. 1,400 years have passed. The sons of Al-Harith who executed Khubayb? History barely remembers their names. But Khubayb ibn Adiy? Millions of people around the world know his story. It's been passed down through generations. His story became eternal. If this story hit you, share it with someone facing something impossible right now. Subscribe for more stories like this. Next week, another story that will blow your mind. What moment got to you most? The grapes? The child? Those final words? Drop a comment. This is Sacred Echoes, where ancient stories meet modern hearts. May you find peace in whatever you're going through. May you hold on to your faith when it's all you have left. And remember, you're never beyond the reach of the impossible.